Tonight on NAIT NewsWatch.
What the Hope Mission is doing to help people in need in Edmonton.
It does something more than just provide for an immediate need. I think it gives a person a sense of dignity to know that they are deserving of something good, like a meal.
The fight against impaired driving continues with the upcoming legalization of marijuana.
If you're gonna drink or if you're gonna smoke, don't get behind the wheel. Have a plan. I mean, get someone to DD.
And why researchers are working on new ways to preserve donated blood.
It's really hard to do that, to estimate that accurately, because we don't know when someone's going to have a car accident.
NewsWatch starts now.
That's all for NAIT NewsWatch. Happy holidays. Thanks for watching.
Wow, I can't believe we're done NewsWatch.
I know, it's been such a whirlwind of a semester.
But I still feel like there's so many more stories that we have to tell, ones that the audience hasn't seen.
I don't think it's too late. I think we can still tell those stories.
Jesse, what are you talking about?
Just come on, let's go tell them.
You're watching NAIT NewsWatch, the next generation of news.
With Edmonton's cold winter weather, people who find themselves without shelter are at an extreme risk.
But it's not just during the winter that the homeless need help. Chelsea has more on that story.
In an average year, 200,000 people in Canada are homeless. That means at least 30,000 Canadians per night find themselves without shelter. In Edmonton, nearly 2,000 people were counted as experiencing homelessness, according to the homeless count done by the City of Edmonton in 2016. Founded in 1929, the Hope Mission has been able to provide shelter and programs to Edmontonians who find themselves without much options. For almost 90 years, this Christian-based not-for-profit has helped many Edmontonians with a warm meal and programs to help them get back on their feet.
Share a meal and you share a hot meal. It does something more than just provide for an immediate need. I think it gives a person a sense of dignity to know that they are deserving of something good, like a meal. Their stomachs are full, they're able to maybe have more clarity mentally to be able to focus on some of the issues that have brought them to the point where they're homeless in the first place. Because if you're hungry, you can't. All you can think about is that immediate need. So being able to meet that and satisfy that can be the start of something. And what's more is sharing a meal is a way to really break down barriers, give somebody a place where they can feel safe, they can talk, they can come in out of the cold and enjoy a hot meal and talk with our staff. And that can open the door for referrals to housing programs, addiction recovery.
Every night, the Hope Mission provides shelter for about 600 people, but the Hope Mission isn't alone. Edmonton has 10 homeless shelters that provide housing and hot meals. In 2009, the city launched a plan to end homelessness. Last year, Homeward Trust partnered with the City of Edmonton to assist in this plan. Homeward Trust is the designated community-based organization for both the province of Alberta and the federal government of Canada.
There's no doubt that Housing First works, but we also had to house over 6,000 people to see a 43% reduction in our homeless count, which means people are becoming homeless all the time. So the work that we've done in updating the plan is to communicate a more comprehensive way of kind of understanding the inflows and outflows into homelessness and prioritizing permanent supportive housing. The fact that we still have a major gap in our community in terms of supports for people with more complex issues, and quite frankly, those are the individuals that really need it the most.
Although the plan to end homelessness in Edmonton has already seen results, Homeward Trust still has 3 goals they would like to accomplish. With offering housing and rehabilitation programs, both Hope Mission and Homeward Trust are hoping to end homelessness in Edmonton. Chelsea Hudima, NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
With the legalization of marijuana in Canada just around the corner, the province and other organizations have a lot of work to do in the coming months regarding its use.
One of those issues surrounds impaired driving, which has been an ongoing issue for decades. Now the concerns for public safety as well as proper legislation are being expressed. Our reporter Marianne Maravilla has more on that story.
Well, when I was 10, my father was killed by a drunk driver.
Thomas Houghton is unfortunately but one example of someone who has lost a loved one due to the negligence of an impaired driver.
Someone who was drunk came down the wrong side of the highway, and the person in front of him swerved off the side of the road, and there was a head-on collision, and both of my father and the impaired driver actually died instantly.
The concern and discussion over impaired driving is a hot topic for a good reason. Crashes involving drugs or alcohol are the leading cause of criminal deaths in Canada. With the upcoming legalization of marijuana, Alberta is now faced with addressing the risk of even higher rates of impaired driving.
And provide the administrative sanctions that I think are necessary to reduce the incidence and the use.
Bill 29 is the official document that the province has introduced to legislate the consumption of cannabis while or before driving. Furthermore, a private organization known as Mothers Against Drunk Driving is extending its efforts to support the fight against impaired driving.
Now we have a national school presentation that's going on that we're hitting with the middle schools and with the high schools, and it's called The Pact. And the presentation is actually with 2 teenagers smoking weed and then getting behind the wheel. So it's actually hitting on weed as well as the alcohol end of it.
The main goal of those involved is to prevent incidents like the one affecting the Hound family, as well as countless others, from ever happening.
If you're going to drink or if you're going to smoke, don't get behind the wheel. Have a plan. I mean, you know, get someone to DD. Have or budget it so that if you're going out to the bar or you're going to a party, that you have enough money for a cab. You have a lot of power in your hand as a driver, and when you make the conscious choice to get behind the wheel when you're impaired, that power can do a lot of damage.
For this time of year and moving forward, organizations continue to advocate the use of safe driving options, especially in places like White Ave where people usually go out drinking in the weekends. Cabs, Ubers, and designated drivers are constantly being reinforced to be used as safe driving options. For NAIT NewsWatch Extra, I'm Marianne Marvilla.
Every minute of every day, someone in Canada needs blood. Now, donating blood is not an easy task, but blood is an irreplaceable medicine.
Researchers from the Canadian Blood Services are looking into ways to increase how long this invaluable resource will last. Our Michael Mancini has more.
You know how frozen food doesn't have the same quality as something fresh? Peas or ice cream that's been improperly stored in your freezer for too long will form large ice crystals or even get freezer burn. The same can be said for frozen blood.
Now, unlike the vegetables that we actually eat, we actually want to maintain the quality or the viability of those red cells so that actually when we transfuse them, they actually will circulate and do the things that red cells are supposed to do for those patients.
Machines used for freezing and preserving blood have been around for decades. Scientists add compounds like glycerol to prevent ice damage, and while the process works, it's not the most practical. Currently, freezing is mainly only used on blood with rare phenotypes, but Dr. Jason Acker and his team of researchers at Canadian Blood Services want to make it more practical, to freeze and thaw blood products without ruining what makes it work.
We cryopreserve them by placing them at low temperatures, -80. They can be stored there for about 30 years or longer. And when we need those, we actually will bring them, thaw them, and then we will have to remove that cryoprotectant before we actually transfuse that product to a patient.
Dr. Acker says nature has already figured out how to optimally cryopreserve. In their research, they study organisms like the wood frog, a species native to the boreal forest, that has evolved to be able to freeze itself solid in the winter and then thaw in the spring, continuing with their life. Now, it's just a matter of recreating a synthetic compound to do that job safely in human blood.
Nature-inspired molecules that then help us preserve those blood products more easily and actually allow us to perhaps do things like store them at higher temperatures or actually allow them to be more easily processed.
While compounds can be created to help store blood products, they're not yet able to recreate blood cells and plasma in a lab. As far as getting the product is concerned, it still only comes from one true source.
I would just hate that if one of my family members should need blood and it wasn't there, so I just donate as often as I can.
Because I feel a special enjoyment when you give. So giving, it's not easy, but it has a special enjoyment.
Blood products range in expiry dates from red cells that last about 42 days to platelets that can only be stored for 5. This puts a demand on how much can be and has to be donated.
It's really hard to do that, to estimate that accurately, because we don't know when someone's going to have a car accident. We don't know necessarily when someone's going to get shot.
The advances in storing and freezing blood hopes to make blood services more prepared to meet the growing demand for blood in Canada. Michael Mancini, NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
Coming up after the break, we head out to the farm to see how the changing generations is having an impact on the world of farming.
My grandfather milked cows, and so did my great-grandfather, but they'd done it by hand.
And what farmers are doing to maintain animal welfare.
You're handling cattle all the time, and it is phenomenal the influence it has on...
I'm late for the game.
Can't go to a NAIT Ooks hockey game? Don't worry. NR92 does a live play-by-play of every home game for men's and women's hockey. Check out nr92.com for more info.
Farming is an age-old practice. However, the farming industry has seen a massive decline in the amount of family-run farms.
With more and more kids moving away from home, going to university and leaving their parents retired or near retirement and at a loss. Our Tori Madu reports.
We actually got a lot of that. It's, oh, you were one of the smartest kids in the grade. Why would you choose to stay like at home and stuff?
Andrea Anderson is 19 years old. She has been out of high school for nearly 2 years, and while most kids her age spend their time in a university lecture, she spends hers with the animals.
As I grew up, my parents turned towards me and my siblings more to, you know, they relied on us to do the work and step up to the plate and help out as we got older. I just really personally took an interest and a passion into it.
Andrea works full-time for her parents on their family farm near Rimbey. One day, she hopes to take the operation over completely. Andrea and her family farm both grain and buffalo. They also have several horses, as well as plenty of cats and dogs that are for pure enjoyment.
I think the animals are a huge part of it for me. I don't think I would do well in a city environment or well in a 9-to-5 job or well at a desk job. That's just a personal thing, I guess.
The reality, though, for many family farms is that not many of the next generation is willing to take over the family business. Farms that have been in operations for generations have to stop operations entirely or sell out because the next generation isn't willing to take it over. Charalta Holsteins near Cher Hill, Alberta was once a thriving dairy farm. Now, its barns are empty.
So those are the milkers, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They're getting dusty, just catching dust.
Norman Lind ran the operation since he was 24, taking it over from his father. After ceasing the operation 2 years ago, Norman is now retired.
My grandfather milked cows, and so did my great-grandfather. But they'd done it by hand, you know, just... It was cows that kept them alive in those days, because that was in the hungry 30s.
Norman's son Darren, though interested in taking over the farm, did not have the funds to do so, nor did any of his siblings. Darren is now an Angus farmer nearby.
I mean, you have to run so many cows to be sustainable, whether it's beef, dairy.
And if you have more than one child, you can't just give it all to the one. You've got your others to think about too.
For Andrea, her passion lies right at home.
Farming's never going to quit. Everybody needs to eat.
Tori Madu, NAIT NewsWatch Extra. Research by the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity shows that 40% of Canadians are concerned about the humane treatment of farm animals in 2017. This is up 7% from 2012.
But what does the humane treatment of livestock look like on a remote ranch in Alberta? Laura Krause has more on that story.
It is disturbing video shot.
Investigation into animal welfare uncovered some
has revealed the cruel treatment of animals.
Has launched an investigation into alleged.
That's the sound of starving pigs.
This is how their food is being produced.
You hear the stories and see the videos across social media. But what does humane livestock farming really look like on a remote cattle ranch in Alberta? John Smith and Laura Lang raise more than 1,200 cattle on their third-generation ranch near Nanton, Alberta. They take extraordinary measures to reduce animal stress and raise their livestock naturally. John and Laura do nearly all of their cattle work the old-fashioned way, on horseback.
Cattle that come from an area that are worked by horses, the cattle respond better. They almost learn how to move better off of the horses, and of course we use the dogs as well.
Inspired by Temple Grandin, an autistic professor on animal behavior, they invested in a hydraulic chute to safely and humanely restrain their cattle.
Temple Grandin actually helped those guys with the construction and design of the chute. It's designed to put them in a calm state, if there can be such a thing in a chute. There's no thrashing around, jumping around. They're restrained safely and humanely. The benefits of that have been huge, coupled with the scales on it, so we can give accurate dosing.
Like other Canadian ranchers, Lang and Smith already followed the National Animal Welfare Standards and Code of Practice. As the owner or the person in charge of animals, you must do the following:
Ensure the animal has adequate food and water. Provide the animal with adequate care when the animal is wounded or ill. Provide the animal with reasonable protection from injurious heat or cold. Provide the animal with adequate shelter, ventilation, and space. Here at Lakeland College, students who study animal sciences are introduced to the humane treatment and housing of farm animals. Not only does it reduce stress within the animals themselves, but it also allows the handler to stay safe while working hands-on with these animals.
You're handling cattle all the time, and it is phenomenal the influence it has on production in general, right? If we can keep these animals at a walk, they're gonna go right back to the feed bunk out there and continue eating and be happy as can be, and they don't even hardly notice that they came through here. Yeah, I'd like to show everybody this is what we do, this is how we train our animals, this is how we train our students and employees of the future and farmers of the future.
For NAIT NewsWatch Extra, I'm Laura Krause.
People seek adrenaline rushes in many ways, sometimes including unique and dangerous sports.
And for one young girl from Stony Plains, sitting on a horse to ride it just won't do. Jessie has more for us on that story.
Bella is like your average 13-year-old. She does her homework after school, eats dinner with her family, and does chores around the house. But what she loves most of all is going for a ride on her horse.
My name is Bella DaCosta. I'm 13 years old and I trick ride. I've been trick riding for 9 years. And I only had a concussion once, but it was minor.
After watching a girl trick ride at a rodeo, Bella decided that she wanted to give it a try.
I was totally against it. I thought it was an extremely dangerous sport, and I didn't want to have any part of it. Our saddle maker got us a clinic with a professional trick rider, so I allowed Bella to take that one clinic thinking it would scare Bella, and she would not want to do it anymore. So in preparation, we signed up for the clinic and she tried it. After that, she was such a natural, it kind of chose her.
Bella soon fell in love with trick riding and started competing across North America with the Canadian Trick Riding Association.
She competed with the association for 2 years. She was the 2016 Canadian champion, and she also went to the junior NFR. They had a competition during the junior NFR in Las Vegas, and she placed second in North America in her division.
Good boy.
She was a natural. Every trick that they threw at her, Bella could do it easily, and I saw her happy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bella's favorite trick to perform is the side drag. It's when you hang off the side of the horse, only hanging on to the horn of the saddle.
I like how it makes you feel, and it makes me feel like I'm flying.
Bella's life circles around her horses Boone, Blue, and Rip. When she isn't competing in trick riding competitions, Bella and her family are busy exercising the horses and doing farm chores.
We rode often, but we never competed in anything. It was more like fun gymkhanas, trail riding, go to the mountains. Our lives circled around our horses, but not like they do at the kind of competitions and the high-paced events that we do now.
She practices her trick riding 4 times a week, but rides her horses daily. Although her next competition isn't until February in South Dakota, Bella is already preparing. Jesse Lesko, NAIT NewsWatch Extra.
Coming up after the break, how a local woman used her online presence to start her own makeup line.
Without it, I don't think my business would be as successful, because word of mouth, it does work, but social media people are on every single day.
And the history to why an organization is working to preserve the high-level streetcar.
Streetcars and trains both play a very big part in the development of this area of Western Canada.
Take your imagination on a trip with NR92 Movies You'll Never See, an audio drama that takes you swinging through the jungles of Africa or strolling down the streets of Paris.
Movies You'll Never See on NR92.com, the station for the students.
Wow, I am so addicted to social media. I cannot stay off Instagram.
Well, you could turn that into a business.
You know, I've seen a lot of people do that on Instagram.
Yeah, a local entrepreneur actually did that. Jamie Latane has more on that story.
Oh, so cute!
Instagram is known for its fun way of connecting people through photos and videos, but it's more than just another app to Gretzi Parth, a 21-year-old makeup artist that developed her own business with the help of Instagram.
And without it, I don't think my business would be as successful because word of mouth, it does work, but social media people are on every single day.
Gretzi is the founder of GP Makeup and G-Class Lashes, an Instagram-based business. Gretzi originally used Instagram to connect with friends, but now with GP Makeup, she says it's almost like a full-time job.
You want to almost make your Instagram account to be like a magazine, you want to be posting things that you're proud of. So, from looking back to 2.5 years ago when I first started my Instagram to now, even just in terms of the quality of my posts, what I'm posting, how I'm kind of trying to target an audience, it's way, way different, and it is very time consuming.
Instagram has helped Gretzi share guest experiences through photos and videos, which has then helped her to reach a wider client base.
She's already booked for my wedding, for my fiance's brother's wedding, for our close friends' weddings. Every time I go on my Instagram, there's a new video or a new product or something that she uses that works really well.
Gretzi has now found a balance between promoting both her business and her personal brand.
I was just posting strictly makeup, where now it seems that people want to know what I'm up to in my personal life. So it's kind of finding that mix between, engaging with them on a makeup and business level, but then also my personal life and what I'm up to outside of the makeup world.
The way in which Gretzi continues to post on Instagram is a strategy that Edmonton media house Modern Muse Media applies to their own clients who want to grow their social media presence.
We want to see the triumphs, we want to see the challenges of what a person goes through when they're trying to build something, to build up a business. So take us with you as an audience on that journey, and you're going to connect with people.
Gretzi now has over 16,000 Instagram followers. While continuing to grow her followers, she also wants to continue to empower women, both through Instagram and her makeup workshops, Glam Artistry. Jamie Latane, NAIT NewsWatch.
I don't know, it's kind of hard to shop nowadays. I mean, your big brands, they're just so expensive.
Well, there are some local entrepreneurs who have started their own clothing line from nothing, really, and they use modern-day marketing tactics to compete with the industry. Our Craig Hole reports.
Clothing production has always been a competitive industry. The ability to get a product into stores, create unique, intriguing designs, and actually sell to enough customers to make a profit can be no easy task, especially for a small startup company facing off against big brand names. Despite the many challenges of running a small business, some young Edmonton entrepreneurs such as Daniel LeConte have started utilizing modern marketing tactics on social media to help his brand stand out.
Social media is probably our main thing that we're trying to work on right now. It's really tough going from 0 followers, and then even with a small following base, it's tough to get people to believe that you're a legitimate company and go from having maybe 100 to 200 followers on social media for people to trust that you're really putting out good quality products.
Another young business owner, Josh Hayward, the creator of Wolves Fitness clothing line, wanted to add some new ideas to traditional sports clothing. He has since experienced the grueling process of starting a brand and attempting to get it into the market.
Well, after I finished up my hockey career, I found myself in the gym quite a bit, and kind of got inspired by some of the brands, but I knew there was something kind of missing. Probably the biggest challenge was just gathering enough money and to put into actual products and then online, and there's a lot of things that you don't really think about, as far as registering business and just the little things that add up.
Despite the challenges Hayward has faced, he has recently made big steps forward in terms of his marketing. With the help of social media, Josh has started a campaign that is aimed not only at growing his brand, but will also raise awareness for an important issue.
With every purchase, we'll be donating a portion of profits to a local mental health charity here in Edmonton, and we hope to see kind of the impact that it has for them and what it can also bring back for us. So it kind of comes full circle all the time.
Hayward started the campaign back in May, where he began raising money and posting on social media about the subject of mental health. He now plans to include a green ribbon on his clothing products, all in support of raising awareness. He believes building his brand around this concept will continue to benefit his business, and he looks forward to where the company could end up in the future.
In the next 5-10 years, hopefully you'll see us having our own store. I think that would be pretty awesome, and I think just seeing us around the gyms and seeing how many people have truly been affected by or have been able to change their lives through the brand. And
Craig Hole, NAIT NewsWatch.
Constant talk of expansion and revitalization in specific downtown areas means conservation itself is becoming larger of a topic.
Some believe the preservation of Old Strathcona may be dependent on transportation, more specifically the high-level streetcar. Our Joe Fletcher reports.
While you're crossing over the high-level bridge in Edmonton, you may not be thinking about the train tracks overhead. That bridge not only allows cars to cross the Fort Saskatchewan, but also carries one of the oldest and perhaps most integral parts of Edmonton's history, the streetcar. A group of volunteers have been maintaining the streetcar since 1980 after they were decommissioned by the city in 1951. Earl Grotsky, the secretary of the society, believes that the streetcar was an integral part in developing Edmonton as we know it today.
I'm neither a streetcar fan or a rail fan. I happen to be a fan of history. And streetcars and trains both play a very big part in the development of this area of Western Canada.
The Edmonton Railway Society has the task of maintaining the cars as well as building up a new fleet. Cars from Japan, Australia, and even Germany have all made their way here to be restored and put back on tracks. The streetcar played a large role in transitioning the two towns of Edmonton and Strathcona, which were separated by a river, into a vast and connected city.
The streetcars were very instrumental in turning Edmonton into an urban area. When villages started up, they started up because there was a reason. There was something happening. There was industry. So, you lived around the area where you worked. But with the advent of the streetcars, you could live in one end of town and reliably go to work in another part of town. So you suddenly had the area developed, the city was able to expand.
The streetcar operates from May long weekend until Thanksgiving. Outside the regular operating hours, they can do special events like cocktail parties, engagements, and even concerts. We talked to a local artist about her time playing on the streetcar.
We were kind of like a big group of friends just hanging out on the streetcar, which was really great. And also it was a beautiful sunset, and just having that visual of seeing the whole entire city is pretty amazing, and definitely my favorite venue.
The streetcar is looking to expand their facilities in the old Strathcona area, with dreams of growing their museum and having a fully operational fleet by White Avenue that could help accommodate summer festival crowds. While it's many years in the works as far as negotiations with the city goes, the Radial Society says that the preservation of Edmonton's history and culture of the streetcar has not faded into obscurity. Joe Fletcher, NAIT Newswatch.
Newswatch music provided by Martin Mayer Productions.
Clothing provided by Buller Trucking.
Wow, I learned so much about what's going on around our city this week.
I know, right? It was nice to get such an in-depth look at some of those stories.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for NAIT Newswatch.
Be sure to join us next week for our final show of the semester. From all of us here at NAIT Newswatch, thanks for watching.